here. Okay. So since it's the first time you and I are meeting about this, maybe you can tell me a little bit about how you all plan to use the equipment module in Sage. I'm thinking because of the type of work you do, equipment is a really important part of your business, correct?
It is.
Okay. And the equipment management module obviously is designed to track your equipment, but you can also use it to allocate equipment to the projects and so forth. So did you have an idea of how you would be using it?
Well, ideally, it would be for in several different ways. For keeping track of its hours and maintenance,
Okay.
uh, and also for scheduling. Um, however far out we were able to go with this. Um,
You mean like determining where a piece of equipment will be?
Correct. That and what's available.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Um, Other than that, I mean, those would be like obviously the big key points for us.
Okay. Okay. So, Olivia, I don't know if Olivia reached out to you at all. She was going to be conducting this training, but she needed me to kind of jump in. Um, so if I ask some questions that you've already talked to her about, I apologize.
No, you're
Just
good. I actually
uh,
haven't. This is my first training.
okay. Okay, great. Is this your first look into Sage as well?
It is.
Okay. So, um, once you log into Sage, you end up at this screen right here. And you have menu items along the left-hand side here,
Hmm.
and these are simply other ways to look at the same menu items. And what I mean by that is today we're talking about equipment management. If I expand that, you'll see that one of the menu items is equipment itself, and it's referred to this way. 8.3 is the
Okay.
name of the screen. And so you'll see it's taken us to the screen where we can set up the basics of the equipment. What is it called? What type of equipment is it? All those good details.
Okay.
Um, I can also come over to this inventory and equipment menu up here and access the exact same screen.
Gotcha.
And I can also click on this. It takes me to this desktop where I have icons that take me to the exact same screen.
Okay.
And the reason that I bring this out is sometimes people get a little overwhelmed. They see this menu, they see this menu, they see the icons, and they think all of them do different things. But in fact, a lot of them are just tools to get to the same location.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah, it's very helpful. Um, so in equipment, obviously the first part is getting your equipment set up. Um, in Sage, this number right here in this box is
Hmm.
called the record number, and that is the identifier for the transaction. In the case of equipment, you're able to assign these numbers yourself. So, see, you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just go from there. Every time you create a new piece of equipment, it automatically suggests the next number. You can override it if you want. I don't know if your equipment currently has any kind of numbering scheme attached to it.
It kind of does, but I mean, so let's say 406, for example. Uh, if I assign that to one of my excavators,
Mm-hmm.
that excavator will always be referred in here as 406.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is numeric only, so you said you kind of have numbers. If you want to bring those over, you certainly can, or you can say, we're just going to start at 1 and get them in here.
Yeah, we just do that. I mean,
Okay.
it's weird because we have low drills, so they're like low drill 1 through 3, and then we have a soil mech, which the
Okay.
it's the numbering system is just for identifying the difference between which one of that same type of equipment.
I gotcha. Okay. So most of the fields in here are pretty self-explanatory. Description, a description of the piece of equipment.
Hmm.
Um, a short name is really just another way, another tag, another identifier on it. So sometimes you'll see this and this are the same. In this case, you can see they explain what kind of lift it is and the model number, and then down here, just strato number 2.
Gotcha.
So you might play with this. You were shouting out some names there of different ways you refer to equipment. This might become the full descriptive of it, and this might be the term you use when you're just talking about it, within your day-to-day work.
Okay.
Over here under status, these statuses are set by the system, so you can't change them. There's 4 to choose from. Typically, that satisfies any needs you have. And then the types are identified by you as a customer. So out of the box, your Sage, this will be empty. And we'll set up types, or you'll set up types, depending on how your implementation goes.
Okay.
Whenever you see a drop down with a little arrow like this, that's going to take you to the window where you can identify the various types. And so when you were talking about, I think you said a soil,
Soil mech,
sorry.
right? Different types of drills.
Yeah, you might decide you want to organize your types by the various pieces of equipment that you have.
Okay.
And then obviously when it comes to lists or, sorting later, it's nice to have those types in place.
Right.
The rest of the fields here, again, pretty self-explanatory. Any kind of serial number, license number, date of purchase, if it came with hours already on it, if it was a used piece of equipment. Financial information, this is where you're able to set up any information about loans. How many pieces of equipment do you have in an estimate?
Ooh. Well, off the top of my head, I'd say 11, 12.
Okay, so these are big pieces. I mean, these are
Yes.
big, huge, giant things. Okay, so you may or may not be setting up loan information in here. I think the concept of this screen is if you had, 100 pieces of equipment and you bought them all individually and were still paying for them, this is a way to kind of process those payments every month
Gotcha.
a little
Okay.
bit quicker. But you most likely will set up depreciation information because I would assume you're still depreciating a lot of those pieces.
I hate to think that, but
Oh, they're old. Okay. I
no,
didn't
no,
know.
they're pretty new.
Oh, okay.
But you never want to think about it just depreciating right after you bought it.
Okay. And then this is where you're able to come in to the system and provide some numbers here in order uh, for the estimating module to give you kind of like a cost to operate. So as we go through learning about how equipment works, you're able to organize all your costs by piece of equipment. And depending on how you set up your cost codes and your ledger, you can really get detailed on how those monies are spent to maintain the piece over a period of time. And then you're able to come in here and do whatever, modify these values.
Right.
And
So they can. So my estimators get to use this, or this helps my estimators with their bids.
absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Great.
So maybe you say, okay, every quarter we're going to review the cost of our equipment, and we're going to provide you, with additional information, updated information about the cost to operate, and so on and so forth. And so you can come in and update these various costs of ownership. And as you see, when I plug in a different number here and I come in to calculate, it gives me some new costs to operate, costs to stand by, things like that. Yeah. Over on this tab, you're able to set up how you want to build this piece of equipment out. Now, I don't know if this is relevant for you. I don't know if you bill your customers in that way, like not necessarily, right?
I mean, we do charge like a MOB, but
they're not paying for your stuff to be out there.
Not all the time. It's kind of it does happen.
Okay.
You know, but.
Okay. Well, I think since having a tool like this is going to be new to you and your team, right?
At least me. Okay. I'm more or less stepping into a whole new realm of things that is all new to me. I was more of a field guy, and have just recently stepped in as the general manager.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is all really new to me.
All really new to you. Well, you might find that when you first have your Sage set up, you come up with some cost to operate, you give that to your estimators, and maybe at that time, you're not really billing people, daily, weekly, monthly for these pieces, so you don't fill this in. But this is always a tool you could go back and use later in time if you decide, hey, that would be beneficial. We want to get moving in that direction.
Right.
With all of your records in Sage, and pretty much any screen that you open, with the exception of a report printing screen, is a record of activity. Some screens you open are going to be a record of job cost. Maybe if you're in accounts payable, you're opening a screen, it's a record of an invoice, right? But pretty much every screen you open will have a record number like this, and it'll have similar buttons across the top here.
Okay.
So if you hover over the buttons, just like most Windows programs, it's going to tell you what the icon does. This is to save, to create a new record, so on and so forth, right? Mm-hmm. You can copy it. If you bought two pieces of material or two pieces of equipment at the same time that were similar, you could copy the record, paste it in a new one, make some modifications. Okay. You also are able to use this paperclip to attach various things to the piece of equipment. So maybe registration papers, anything that might be valuable for someone who's coming into the system to look for information.
Gotcha.
And then you also have a place for notes where you can document all sorts of things. Now, you wouldn't need to necessarily document repairs here, because as you log those repairs in the system as an expense, it would be in that location where you could put details about what was done to this piece of equipment.
Okay.
Okay. And then you'll always have a printer button, and that'll show you the various reports that are available for the screen.
Okay.
Are you going to be doing any other training in Sage, or are you just specifically working with the equipment?
I will be doing other training in Sage.
Okay.
Which programs or which parts, I leave that up to the owner.
Okay. Okay. Well, real quickly then, I just want to tell you about the buttons from the print screen. So just like this is a record screen, all the print screens look very similar as well. They're going to have a list of whatever reports are available, and sometimes the list is very long. In this case, it's just 2, but some screens have a lot of reports. In this area, this is what we call the selection criteria. This is how you tell the system what you want to print. So if I don't put anything in there, the system would print everything available.
Gotcha.
And if I specify just one part, then it would print the report just about this one piece right here.
Okay.
Along the top, this print button would send it to whichever printer you had selected over here. You can, of course, preview the report. And many of your reports in Sage have drill down. So you'll notice how the icon changes to a little plus sign. I can drill down and that will take me back to whatever, a record, a job cost activity, whatever it might be.
Okay.
And then you're able to send your reports to Excel, Word, to PDF. And do you use Outlook in your office?
I do.
Okay, so if you hit the Outlook button, what happens is a box like this will pop up, giving you the opportunity to name the report. You can accept the name it provides. And then it'll pop up sorry, I have too many old emails on my computer. It'll pop up an email window like this with the report attached, and then you can send it out to whoever you want.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that's not specific to the module, but it's good to know how to work the screen.
Right. No. And so far, I mean, this looks fairly easy.
It can be very intuitive. Sometimes though our eyes get focused on something and we're just like, okay, print. And you have no idea how many times I've worked with someone and they're like, oh, I was printing and then scanning it to make it a PDF, So
Right.
it's nice to have just to know what's available. Okay, so once your piece of equipment is set up, it's available for use throughout the system. Do you have in-house mechanics that work on these pieces of equipment?
I do.
Okay, so within payroll, you are able to select a piece of equipment to associate with a person's time.
Okay.
So I'll just pick somebody here and we'll go down the list. And I can say, I don't even know if any of your equipment needs oil changes, but let's say that it does. And then select a piece of equipment. Forklift. And I can even select, or I will select a cost code for that. So I'm not sure when it comes to the cost codes that you have right now that you use in your current system, as those transfer over into Sage, I don't know if there's cost codes already that relate to the maintenance of equipment.
There are, and
Okay.
we've had discussions of changing our cost code system.
Okay.
So that's still.
It's in the works.
Yeah.
Okay, so just like that, I've taken this gentleman's time and I've coded it to this piece of equipment. And there's a notes field here as well, so I could be very extensive about the labor that was done, the work that he completed, any issues that were found. I could record all of that in here as well.
Okay.
This is an important part of keeping track of the cost of your equipment because often it is mechanical, right? The repairs and stuff that have to be done. Okay. In Sage, when we look at our GL, the system provides for a direct expense account range. In this range, this is where you'd see your direct labor, material, subcontract expense, anything like that. And when someone enters an accounts payable invoice or a debit card transaction, whatever it might be, and they use one of these accounts, the system forces the user to pick a job, generating job cost.
Okay.
And you might be familiar with that because that's a pretty typical scenario in a construction accounting system. The equipment expense range works the same way, except it will force the user to pick a piece of equipment.
Okay.
So I don't know right now, how you manage your costs for your equipment, fuel, so on and so forth. But you could potentially cost everything directly to the piece of equipment that it belongs to.
Well, so if I do that, now that piece of equipment might only be on a job for 2 months.
Okay.
And then it's on to another job. Am I able to cost everything to that piece of equipment to that job and then transfer it to another job or go back to a previous job?
Right. So, and that's why I bring this up, because this will be something you all will have to discuss. So, in the scenario you just explained to me, I have a piece of equipment. It's on a job for the entire month of December. I have a choice, right? Every gas receipt that comes in, every tire repair, everything, I could just say cost it to the job, because that equipment is only servicing that job. So just put it directly to the job. That's certainly an option. And maybe that's how you handle it now when expenses come in. Or I could say cost it to the piece of equipment, but then I'm going to do an equipment allocation, which we'll talk about in a minute, which takes those costs out of the equipment range and puts them into the direct range and costs them to the job.
Gotcha.
That obviously is more steps, right? But the advantage is now when I go to review that piece of equipment, I can really see what it costs for me to have it. As opposed to if I take all the expenses coming in and I put them to the job, directly to the job, then I never really know how much does this piece of equipment, how much fuel does it consume, you know, so on and so forth. So the second option takes more time perhaps, but it gives you also more information.
Oh,
And you'll have to just kind of decide what's more valuable, you know, what has value to your team.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm sure Olivia is working with, I talked to the management there and I cannot remember her name.
Talking Lori?
Lori, yeah.
Yep.
About the chart of accounts, and I'm sure they're working it out, but I'll just kind of show you, this is a sample company, what they've done. And so you can see their direct expense range, pretty typical, right? Material, equipment, subcontract, labor, other. And then their shop range, they have this equipment labor where they would post, where I was showing you the payroll record and I'm showing a mechanic working on a piece of equipment. His labor would go here along with all of its taxes and anything else like that. And then they've got fuel and repair and depreciation and all sorts of things down in here. So it's kind of an idea of what that might look like. In this particular sample company, what they've opted to do is any expenses that come in, they put them direct to the piece of equipment. And then they allocate the equipment to the job. And this contra account comes into play. And I'll show you what that looks like. So basically, all of these accounts, 5604 through 5780, represent costs they've allocated directly to a piece of equipment. The contra account is monies taken, or expense taken out of this range and directed and costed direct to a job.
Okay.
And so that was that secondary option we were talking about.
Right.
So it gives you the ability to track your expenses by piece individually, but then you take whatever appropriate expense out of there and cost it up to the job.
Correct. Right.
And that's what it would look like on your income statement.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll go over to the allocation screen then and see what that looks like. Okay. So back down here in equipment management, just to talk about the menu really quick, we've got this screen. This is where we went to set up the details of our piece of equipment, like when we initially purchase it or when we initially put the item into Sage. And then payments and depreciation, like I was saying, you know, you can process your payments through here, but with 11 pieces of equipment, it's probably not necessary. Likely they will use the depreciation feature though. And basically it just allows them with a click of a button to post all the depreciation on all 11 pieces in one entry. So, you know, for each month. Equipment cost and equipment revenue. These screens are really more like review screens. You wouldn't directly put any information in here. These screens receive information when transactions are completed somewhere else in the system. And you can see here in the lower right-hand corner, it's telling you that this cost entry came from a GL check. So a check was written to Hoffman Bank, and it's for financing, and this was the cost amount, and this is the piece of equipment that it hit. So you wouldn't come to this screen to enter any costs. The costs here are coming from all over the system, from AP, from payroll, from GL.
Right.
And the same with the revenue. These transactions are generated when we allocate pieces of equipment, and that's what we're going to talk about next.
Okay.
Equipment reports, just that, different ways to look at your pieces of equipment. There are quite a few reports in each of these screens. So what I usually recommend is once you get into your system, maybe you have a sample company you're able to access right now, look around, see what's offered. If you have any reports that you use right now to analyze your equipment, send them my way, and I can make some recommendations on what you might look at here in the system.
Okay.
Okay. So equipment allocation is really that. It's a screen that allows you to take a piece of equipment and tell the system where it was. So maybe you could help me out with a piece of equipment that might be on a job site for a whole month. What would that piece be doing there?
So let's say we just had a CZM 160 out at Pier 22 in San Francisco. Being that we're a drilling company, but 99% of the time we're up there drilling.
Drilling, okay. Okay. And down into the ocean? Is that?
No, we're pier foundation specialists, so we're like we're close enough to the water where you could fall and hit it, but
okay. I guess you hope if you fall, you hit the water, right?
Or you just don't fall.
You just hope that you don't fall. Okay. And are you're also doing the work while you're out there, right? You're not just simply renting equipment to people, to another
Correct.
contractor. Okay. So, I mean, at the chance of oversimplifying, I'm just going to say we were drilling. But you could obviously be more extensive in your description of what was being done. Select the job. If I know the number, I'm able to type it in. You'll also notice the drop-down arrow. And when I do that, it brings up a list of everything available in that screen.
Okay.
These screens can be sorted. So you'll know what it's being sorted by wherever the little arrow is. So if I don't know the job number, I might sort by the name of the job.
Right.
And then I can come up here and begin typing to locate it. Or if you only knew the address, you could also sort by the address and start typing that in.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll pick a job. The jobs are able to have phases, and that's something that Olivia will go over in her training when they talk about job setup and as you get more detailed about how you use the project. Sorry, I just want to make sure I have everything. Okay. And then I can pick a cost code. I'm just picking some things of what I was doing that day on the job, and then whatever piece of equipment I'm using. And this is where I get to say, was it being operated that day? Was it standby, idle? Is it simply a rental? And then I'm renting it, you know, for so many operational hours, standby hours, idle hours, and so forth.
Right.
So in your case,
T&M tags fall into that same rental column then, I assume?
yeah, if you're doing T&M work, that's a great place to There's different, is that what most of your work is, T&M, or?
No, no,
Oh, okay,
just from
just
time to
asking.
time.
Okay. um, yeah, so the way that T&M works in Sage is you can definitely set up in here your hours that you're renting it. And then when you create your T&M billings, it pulls in all costs, equipment, labor, materials, whatever, and allows you to set up different markups and everything, or different rates.
Okay.
Okay, but for the most part, you would probably be using these three fields right here. Was
Right.
I operating it that day? Was it just sitting there that day? So let's say it was operational for 8 hours. Um, sorry, it automatically wanted me to rent it too. And then I can put detailed notes. And again, this notepad, I don't know the character limit, but I believe it's several thousand. So you could get really detailed. You could even, if someone sent you an email about something that happened that day and you wanted to paste it into here, you could even paste someone's email right
Okay.
into the record. Okay. And then I could go down to the next line and identify where my next piece of equipment was. So this screen represents a complete day of activity.
Gotcha.
Okay. Once I save this, what I'm doing is I'm picking my accounting period here. So Sage assigns an accounting period to each month of the year. And based on how your system is set up, there'll either be one for January, two for February, and so forth, or it might be different if your accounting year is not a calendar year. But in either case, I want to make sure that whatever the date of my transaction matches the accounting date. If I don't, I'm going to get a warning like this that says, hey, your date over here, it doesn't match your posting period. Do you want to continue? And then I can say, oh, no, let me fix that.
Okay.
And I bring that up because I know we're not getting, we're talking about equipment management, but it does involve accounting activity. So it's good to know what's going on.
Right.
And I'll go ahead and save that record. So I'm going to go into journal transactions because I want to show you everything that was accomplished by me saving that record.
Okay.
So here is that record that we just created from equipment allocation, which is the screen we were in.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it hit the contract count and it took $58 out of the equipment cost range and it put it up here into equipment expense and the direct expense range. And if I were to come up to the job cost window, it shows me that it costed the job to this cost code for that dollar amount.
Okay.
It came up with that dollar amount because when we set up part number 400, we gave it some operation rates. And so we told it that the cost to operate was $7.25 an hour, and we had it on there for 8 hours.
Right.
So this is where you would determine how you want to build these pieces of equipment out. And that goes back to the conversation we were having. Do you want to just cost gas and everything directly to the job? Or do you want to put it to the piece of equipment and then do like an allocation, which is really kind of like a cost recovery entry to the job?
Which that makes a lot more sense to do the allocation.
I think so too, because now you're taking into consideration not just the costs that happened during that 1 month, but you're trying to be more balanced, right? If it had repairs, you're trying to spread all the costs over a period of time so that it's fairly allocated to each job. It would be sad if an equipment just broke on one job, right? And then that job cost goes way out of balance because all the costs are allocated to that one project just because it happened to be there
Right.
at that job site. So the billing rates, again, that goes back to the T&M that we were talking about. And these rates also incorporate into work orders and all sorts of places in the system. It's kind of all linked together. But for what I think you'll be using it for initially, I think coming up with the cost rates here will be the most important for using the allocation screen.
Okay.
Okay, so when we created the transaction over here, did it make sense to you how I was going through the various fields?
Yes, it did.
Okay, as I say, we can go through it again if you'd like. This is also, you'll notice they have a line item for equipment repaired. You do have the opportunity to kind of
I
log that
think I'm losing you
information.
there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I
I'm
back?
not sure if it's my internet.
Ah,
I think so. I'm not sure if it's my internet or what.
okay. Um,
Can you hear me?
um, let's see. Let me.
Oh,
I don't know if you can hear me again. Let's see. How can I?
oh, see, that's weird because now I can hear you just fine.
You can hear me good? Hello?
I can. It's like it goes in and out.
It goes in and out. Okay. Um,
Um,
I think my internet is okay.
yeah, no, it's I'm out at my house right now, and uh, cell phones. I had to have Sprint bring a special like little tower to my house just to get service.
Oh, wow.
It's Yeah, it's kind of weird over here, and I'm in the Bay Area, so you would think I'd have service everywhere.
Yeah, that's frustrating. Um, is it still choppy or are we back to clear?
It's kind of choppy.
It's kind of choppy. Okay. Well, I can hear you. So, did you have any questions about what we've covered so far that I can go back to and talk about more?
Not yet. I mean, I'm sure I will eventually have a million questions.
Okay.
Um, but so far I'm good.
Okay. There's the equipment management module itself is pretty simple and there's not too many moving parts to it. You've got setting up your equipment,
Okay.
which is critical, right? Because that's where we put our basic information, but it's also where we would determine our costs. And then you have
Correct.
allocating the equipment to the jobs. So one more thing I just want to point out, and this is kind of reaching into accounts payable, but it's important.
Okay.
We talked about the direct expense range, and if someone chooses an account from the direct expense range, the system will pop up a window and force them to job cost. They are unable to save the record until they've done that. The same is the case with that equipment expense range. So you will want to do some discussion or have some discussion with your accounts payable team
Okay.
regarding how they use the chart of accounts to ensure that things are properly costed to the job. Oh, I didn't want to do equipment rentals. Let's see. That's not what I wanted to do either. I don't know. So we'll say some kind of repair. And this is, I'm going quickly through this because this is the accounts payable invoice screen. I don't think you'll be using it too often.
Right.
But I'm putting in an invoice from a vendor. And when I select my account here, I'm going to go into that equipment range and ensure that I select an equipment repair, my equipment repair account. And that way, when I go to save the record, it will bring up the equipment window, and here I can identify which piece of an equipment this expense is related to.
Okay.
This is important because let's say, for example, I don't choose an account. I'm your AP person, and I don't pick an account here. I pick something down here. I pick maintenance and repair. When I save the record's saved. No opportunity to cost to equipment. So it will be really important that your AP team knows, hey, if you're getting a piece, if you're getting some kind of invoice in, or if you're getting a debit card receipt or something that needs to go to equipment, you need to choose an account from this range. And that will allow the system to properly job cost or equipment cost the activity.
Okay.
And the same with payroll. You know, if someone's working on a piece of equipment, if you're not going to cost their time to the job, but to that piece of equipment, their timesheet needs to be labeled, right? So that your team who's entering payroll knows, okay, I know he said he's at job, he's at Pier 22, but he was 8 hours there fixing this lift. And, you know, our new workflow is that's going to go to the equipment. And so you'll want to make sure that payroll's on the same page as you.
Right.
Okay. That's the ins and outs of equipment. I don't know all that Olivia intended to cover with you today. I don't know if there was a plan to talk about how we're going to get equipment information from you in order to set up your database, or maybe we can just talk about that anyways, just in case. So,
Yeah, I'm not really sure either, because I know my mother, Lori, was supposed to be in on this today, but for whatever reason, she couldn't make it.
okay.
Um,
Okay. Well, that's fine. I can just leave you with maybe some things you can research and with your team there. You know,
okay.
however you have your equipment right now, I'm sure even what software are you coming from? Are you coming from a QuickBooks or?
Well, we have Sage right now.
Oh, okay.
It's just we never had a software for that like tied the whole company in together.
Okay.
So this is just we're
So you're
fully
using
utilizing
like,
Sage now.
oh, okay. So this is you have this exact same program from Sage, or Sage has many programs. Are you using one of their other platforms, or?
Well, it's a different platform.
Okay,
She just used it for accounting.
got it. Okay. So maybe right now your list of equipment is in an Excel document or something
Oh
like
yes.
that. So you can start thinking about how are we going to get that information over to Olivia so that she can set up our equipment. That'll be important.
Okay.
And other things to think about, do you have information that can be used to determine, you know, cost right now? Maybe you don't.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay, great.
Um, and I can get all that fairly quickly all on an Excel spreadsheet.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So Olivia will need that. Um, and then once she has a chance to review, she'll probably come back to you with additional questions. You know what? Actually, what I'll do is I'll send you an email. Can I get your email address?
Yep, it's Nick, Nick, at hillsidedrilling.com.
Okay, I'll send you a list of information I think would be helpful, and I'll make sure to copy Olivia on it just in case she's like, oh, I already asked Lori, you know, we're doing this and that. That way we don't muck everything up, but if it's needed, we can be ahead of it.
Okay.
And really to get going, well, we need to set up this screen right here, the 8.3 screen at a minimum. That's what we need to get going. Now, as far as historical information, that might be something Olivia and Lori are talking about. You know, do they want to put any historical information in on the equipment, like historical costs? Probably not. I think we'll probably just fill out this area here, and then
Okay.
you can track things going forward. Um, but I'll put that email together to you, copy Olivia on it, and that way you can start gathering the information that I know she'll need to build out this part of the database.
Definitely.
Okay. Any other questions you might have about the software in general?
Not yet. Like I said, I still think I need to kind of just play around in it
Mm-hmm.
and for a little bit. And as I do, I am sure I will have more than a
Question.
few questions pop up.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, I'll get that email over to you, and then feel free. After that point, you'll have my contact information. So if you want to email me or give me a call, feel free to do so at any time.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. If that's all, then I'll stop the meeting, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you. And yes, you've been wonderful.
Good. um, it'll be fun using this. It's going to be nice to see what you plan to do with it. In my email, too, I'll just do a brief summary of the two ways we talked about keeping track of expenses so that when you speak about it later with your team, you kind of have some notes.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Right. Right.